Commander Minu stared at the screen in front of him. The alien ships were massive, 3 times larger than his vessel. They hung in space like dark mountains, blocking the stars behind them. His crew was silent. Everyone knew what was about to happen. The UES Indomitable was humanity's pride. It had taken 30 years to build, combining the best technology Earth could create. But looking at those alien vessels, Minu felt small. Humanity had only left their solar system 5 years ago. These aliens had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. "Commander, incoming transmission," said officer from the communications station. "Put it on screen," Minu replied. The face that appeared was not human. It had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, and its skin looked like gray stone. When it spoke, the translation device made its voice sound harsh and cold. "Primitive species, I am War Prime of the Empire. You have entered our territory. Your ships will surrender immediately. Your colonies will belong to us. Your people will serve us. This is not a request." Park stepped forward. She was Earth's chief diplomat, sent specifically for this mission. She had prepared for this moment her entire life. "War Prime, we come in peace. We had no knowledge this system was claimed. We ask for dialogue and mutual understanding between our peoples." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace, understanding. You are children playing with fire. We do not negotiate with insects." The screen went dark. Minu's hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. "Get back to." The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. "They're firing," shouted Lieutenant Bora from Tactical. "Energy weapons, massive output." "Shields holding," reported the defense officer, "but barely." On the screen, Minu watched 3 colony transport ships explode. They were civilian vessels, carrying families to New, the human colony in this system. 5,000 people, gone in seconds. His jaw clenched so hard his teeth hurt. "They killed civilians," whispered Park, her face pale. Another blast hit the Indomitable. The lights flickered. "Shields at 40%, called the defense officer. Minu made his decision. "Load all of them." Engineer Lee looked up from her station. "Sir, the aliens have energy shields. Our kinetic weapons might not." "Do it anyway," Minu ordered. "Target the closest battlecruiser, full power." There were simple weapons by galactic standards. They used magnetic rails to launch solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Earth had developed them because they were reliable and powerful. Every military expert said they were outdated compared to energy weapons. "Loaded, Commander," reported Bora. "Fire." The ship shuddered as 8 fired simultaneously. Tungsten projectiles, each weighing 2 tons, flew through space at a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance to the ship in seconds. The alien shields flickered. They were designed to absorb energy and redirect it away from the ship, but solid matter was different. The shields tried to stop the projectiles and failed. The tungsten rounds punched through the shield like it wasn't there. The battlecruiser exploded. One moment it was a mighty warship. The next, it was expanding debris. Every screen on the bridge showed the same thing. The alien fleet had stopped moving. They were stunned. "They didn't expect that," breathed Lee. "Target the next ship," Minu ordered. "Fire when ready." The second battlecruiser tried to dodge, but it was too large and too slow. More rounds tore through its hull. Internal explosions rippled through the ship as its reactor breached. Warprime's face appeared on screen again. The 4 eyes were wide. "Impossible. Your weapons are primitive. How?" "Maybe you should have talked instead of murdered civilians," Minu said coldly. "Leave our system now, or we'll destroy your entire fleet." The alien ships began to retreat. They jumped away one by one, leaving the wreckage of their 2 battlecruisers spinning in space. The Indomitable was alone again, victorious but damaged. Minu stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. They had just fought aliens and won, but he knew this was only the beginning. Park approached him. Her hands were shaking. "Commander, what have we done? We just made enemies of an empire that spans dozens of star systems." "They made the choice when they killed our people," Minyu replied. But in his heart, he knew she was right. Earth had just announced itself to the galaxy in the worst possible way. Officer interrupted them. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions, dozens of them, from all over this sector of space." "What do they say?" Minyu asked. "They're all asking the same question. They want to know who we are and how we destroyed battle cruisers. The entire galaxy is watching, Commander." Minyu looked at the stars outside. Somewhere out there, 1,000 alien civilizations were learning about humanity for the first time. They were learning that humans could fight, that human weapons worked differently than theirs, that humanity would not surrender without a battle. "Send a message to Earth Command," he said quietly. "Tell them first contact did not go as planned. Tell them we need reinforcements. Tell them that we'll come back with more ships." He paused, then added, "And tell them we're going to need a lot more." Lee checked her damage reports. "Commander, repairs will take 3 days minimum. The colony on Nu is asking for help. They're terrified." "We'll protect them," Minyu promised. "Whatever comes next will stand our ground." As the crew began repairs, Minyu remained on the bridge staring at the debris field. 5,000 dead civilians. 2 destroyed alien warships. The mathematics of war had always been brutal, but this was different. This was first contact, and it had started with blood. In the observation room, Park watched the same debris field. She had trained her whole life to bring peace between species. She had studied diplomacy, learned, prepared speeches about cooperation and mutual benefit. All of it was useless now. The door opened. Commander Minyu entered and stood beside her. "I failed," she said softly. "No," Minyu replied. "They never intended to talk. You saw how quickly they fired. This was always going to happen." "Maybe, but now we're at war with an empire we know nothing about. We don't know how many ships they have. We don't know how many allies they have. We just know they're coming back." Minyu nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready. Humanity has always been good at one thing: we adapt, we survive, we find ways to win when we shouldn't." Far across the galaxy, in the throne room of the Empire, War Prime knelt before the High Emperor. He reported the impossible defeat. He spoke of primitive weapons that ignored their shields. He warned that these humans were dangerous. The High Emperor listened in silence. When finished, the Emperor spoke one sentence that would change everything. "Assemble the full war fleet. These humans will learn their place, or they will be extinct." The galaxy had noticed humanity, and humanity had no idea what was coming next. 6 months had passed since the first battle. The war had spread like fire across human space. Lee stood in the shipyard above Earth, watching workers convert civilian freighters into weapons platforms. Every ship that could carry a was being modified. It wasn't enough. "How many can we complete this week?" asked Admiral through the communication link. 12, maybe 15 if we skip safety tests," replied. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. "Skip them. We need ships now, not later." Nodded and closed the channel. Through the viewport she could see Earth below. It looked peaceful from here. But she knew better. 3 human colonies had already fallen to the... 2 more were under siege. Earth itself would be next if they didn't find a way to turn the tide. On the colony world of Nu, Lieutenant Han crouched behind broken concrete. Plasma fire scorched the air above her head. The soldiers advanced in perfect formation, their energy weapons cutting through everything. Martinez, flank left, shouted, "Get that machine gun working." Her squad scattered and moved. The expected ordered battles in open terrain. They didn't understand human tactics. Team used the ruins of the city, hitting from multiple angles, retreating before the aliens could respond. Private got the heavy machine gun operational. Old-fashioned bullets tore into the formation. The aliens had personal shields, but like their ship shields, they were designed for energy weapons. Solid ammunition punched through. 3 aliens fell. The rest scattered, their perfect formation breaking, smiled grimly. They could be beaten. It just cost everything. "Fall back to checkpoint 7, she ordered. They had to keep retreating. They had numbers and technology. Humans had determination and creativity. It wasn't a fair trade. Deep beneath Seoul, in a laboratory that officially didn't exist, Doctor stared at equations that shouldn't work. His team had been studying captured technology for months. Jump drives, energy shields, plasma weapons. All of it was impressive. None of it would save humanity. "We need something they don't have," muttered to himself. His assistant, Doctor, looked up from her station. "They have had faster-than-light travel for 3,000 years. What could we possibly discover that they haven't?" Something they never looked for because they already had a solution that worked. Return to his primary research. Quantum tunneling. The ability to move matter from one point to another instantly, without crossing the space between. It was theoretical physics, impossible to achieve with current technology. Every simulation showed it required more energy than existed in a star. Except one simulation. A strange result from 3 weeks ago that kept returning to. It suggested that with the right quantum entanglement and a specific type of exotic matter, the energy requirements dropped dramatically. Not to possible levels yet, but closer. "Run simulation 773 again," he told. "But this time, use the quantum field modifications from the shield generators. Those are designed for energy dispersion, not matter transport." "I know, just try it." The simulation ran, watched the numbers cascade across screens. His heart began to beat faster. The energy requirements were dropping. Not enough yet, but the trend was clear. "It's working," whispered. "Don't celebrate yet. We need to drop it by another 6 orders of magnitude." But for the first time in months, felt hope. Above Earth, the defense fleet gathered. Commander Minu now led 20 ships instead of 1. They were a mix of military vessels and armed civilian craft. Across from them, scouts probed the outer system. "They're testing our defenses," said officer, "trying to find weak points before the main fleet arrives." "How long until that main fleet gets here?" Minu asked. "Intelligence estimates 2 weeks, maybe 3. 2 weeks to prepare for a battle they probably couldn't win." Minu studied the tactical displays. Every simulation showed the same result. They would break through. Too many ships, too much firepower. Earth would burn. Unless something changed. Park entered the bridge. She now wore a military uniform instead of diplomatic robes. Her job had changed. Instead of making peace, she coordinated strategy. "I've been analyzing battle patterns," she said. "They're predictable. They always form the same formations, always attack from the same angles." "That's useful for individual battles," Minu replied. "But it doesn't solve the numbers problem." "No, but it buys time, and time is what the scientists need." Minu knew she was talking about the secret project in Seoul. He didn't know the details. He just knew it was humanity's last hope. On Nu, the situation was deteriorating. Han's squad had been fighting for 18 hours straight. They were out of ammunition, out of food, and almost out of options. "Command says evacuation ships arrive in 3 hours, reported. His voice was hoarse from smoke and exhaustion. "We need to hold this position for 3 hours then," said. "Everyone check your weapons. Use everything we have." A aircraft flew overhead. Squads scattered into buildings. The aircraft fired, collapsing one structure. Private Nam didn't get out in time. Closed her eyes briefly. Another name to remember. Another person who wouldn't go home. The list was getting too long. The ground assault began at dawn. Hundreds of soldiers, supported by aircraft and armored vehicles. Squad numbered 12. The mathematics were impossible, but humans had always been good at impossible mathematics. They turned the urban terrain into a maze of traps, buildings wired to explode, streets blocked with debris, every corner a potential ambush. They advanced slowly, cautiously. That caution bought time. 3 hours became 4, then 5. The evacuation ships launched with thousands of civilians. The squad was left behind, still fighting. "We did it," breathed. "They got away." "Now we get away," replied. "Fall back to extraction point Omega." They ran through smoke and rubble. Patrols were everywhere. Squads split into pairs, taking different routes. Only 6 of them made it to the extraction point. A small shuttle waited, engines hot. As they climbed aboard, looked back at New, the city was burning. Another human colony fallen, but the people had escaped. That had to count for something. In Seoul, Doctor did something remarkable. He successfully teleported a coffee mug from his laboratory to the moon. The mug appeared exactly where he predicted, with no damage, no energy signature, no warning. The implications were staggering. Doctor stared at the empty space where the mug had been. "We did it. We actually did it." "Get Admiral on the line," said, immediately. 20 minutes later, Admiral stood in the laboratory, holding the coffee mug that had been on the moon. It was still warm from the coffee had poured into it before the test. "How fast can you scale this up?" asked. "For objects, days; for ships, months, maybe years." "You have 3 weeks. His face went pale. "Admiral, that's impossible. The calculations alone would take." "The fleet will be here in 3 weeks, Doctor. After that, there won't be an Earth to defend. Make it possible." Left the laboratory. He had to reorganize the entire defense strategy around technology that didn't exist yet. But he had fought in enough wars to know one truth. Humans always did their best work when everything was on the line. In his office, he called Commander Minu. "We have a new plan. It's insane and probably won't work." "Those are my favorite kind of plans," Minu replied. Across human space, the war continued. Ships fought and died. Colonies burned or were evacuated. Soldiers like Han held impossible positions. Engineers like Lee built weapons from spare parts. Diplomats like Park coordinated the chaos. And in a laboratory beneath Seoul, Doctor worked 20-hour days trying to achieve the impossible, trying to give humanity a chance. The fleet was coming. They had won every major battle. They had superior numbers and superior technology. They had conquered species for thousands of years. But they had never fought humans before, and humans had a gift for changing the rules of war when they needed to survive. Engineer watched the installation with nervous hands. The device was called a threshold drive, and it looked nothing like the engines humanity had used before. It was smaller, more compact, and infinitely more complex. If Doctor's calculations were correct, it would change warfare forever. If they were wrong, the ship would tear itself apart. "Final connections complete," reported Technician Park. "Drive is ready for testing." Activated his communication link. "Admiral, the Phantom is ready for trial run." Admiral's voice came through clearly. "Commander Minu, begin the test. May fortune favor us all." On the bridge of the newly constructed ship Phantom, Commander Minu felt his stomach tighten. They were about to attempt something no human had done before. Teleportation across space, not using traditional jump drives but through quantum tunneling. "All stations report ready," said Officer. "Coordinates set for Mars orbit," added Navigator O. Minu took a breath. "Engage threshold drive." The ship didn't move in any traditional sense. There was no acceleration, no sense of motion. Reality simply folded and the Phantom was suddenly somewhere else. Earth disappeared. Mars appeared in front of them. The transition was instant. The bridge was silent for 3 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. "It worked," shouted O. "No radiation, No energy signature on departure or arrival, reported Science Officer Sora. It's like we were never at Earth and always at Mars. Minyu allowed himself a small smile. Well done, everyone. Now let's do it again. We need to test combat applications. Over the next 2 weeks, humanity built 12 ships with threshold drives. They were smaller than traditional battleships, faster, and carried massive arrays. More importantly, they could appear anywhere without warning. Doctor worked with Park to develop tactical applications. Traditional warfare relies on formations and defensive positions, explained. But if you can appear anywhere instantly, those concepts become meaningless. Park studied the star maps. They stage their fleets in predictable patterns. They established defensive perimeters. If we could teleport directly into the middle of their formation, they would have no time to react, finished. Their own ships would be in the line of fire. They'd be forced to hold fire or risk hitting each other. It's devious, said with a slight smile. I like it. The fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system exactly when predicted. War Prime commanded 300 ships. It was the largest fleet the Empire had ever assembled. Earth's defense forces numbered 40 ships, mostly converted civilian vessels. The mathematics appeared simple. Humanity would lose, but didn't know about the threshold drives. Admiral stood in Earth's orbital command center, watching the fleet take formation. They moved with precision, each ship in its designated position. It was beautiful and terrifying. They're confident, observed Park beside him. They should be. They have overwhelming force. Opened a channel to Commander Minyu. Phantom Squadron, you are cleared for operation. Show them what humans can do. Commander Minyu's 12 ships were nowhere near the fleet. They waited near Jupiter, hidden behind the gas giant. When they received their orders, they didn't fly toward the enemy. They simply vanished and appeared in the center of the formation. War Prime saw his tactical display light up with warnings. 12 human ships had appeared from nowhere, surrounded by his own vessels. Before he could give orders, the humans opened fire. Fired at point-blank range. Tungsten projectiles tore through ships before shields could even activate. 3 battlecruisers exploded in the first 5 seconds. Return fire, screamed. But his ships hesitated. The human vessels were too close. Any shot risked hitting other ships. In those precious seconds of confusion, the humans destroyed 8 more vessels. Then the Phantom Squadron vanished again. They reappeared at the edge of the formation, firing into the rear ships. 5 more vessels were destroyed before they could turn around. Finally understood. These humans had developed instant transportation. His carefully planned formation was worthless. His defensive perimeter meant nothing. The very foundation of his tactical training was obsolete. Scatter, he ordered. Break formation and engage independently. The fleet scattered, trying to adapt, but human ships kept appearing and disappearing. They would fire, destroy 1 or 2 ships, and vanish before they could respond. It was like fighting ghosts. Officer monitored the enemy fleet. They're trying to predict our jump points. They're deploying sensor arrays. Then we stop being predictable, Minyu replied. Random jump pattern delta, keep them guessing. The Phantom Squadron began making jumps that made no tactical sense. They appeared in empty space, stayed for 3 seconds, then vanished. They appeared near enemy ships but didn't fire, just left. They jumped to random coordinates across the solar system. The fleet became paralyzed with paranoia. Every ship's sensors were at maximum, searching for the next attack. Crews were exhausted from constant high alert. Commanders couldn't rest or plan because the humans might appear at any moment. Park watched from Earth Command. They're breaking, look at their formation, it's falling apart. She was right. The ships were no longer coordinating. Each captain made independent decisions, worried only about their own vessel. The mighty war fleet had become a scattered mob. Now we hit them hard, Admiral ordered. All forces engage. Earth's 40 conventional ships jumped into the system. They weren't using threshold drives, just traditional faster-than-light engines, but they were already demoralized and scattered. The battle was over in 4 hours. War Prime watched his fleet die around him. 300 ships reduced to 60 survivors. It was the worst defeat in history. He opened a channel to Admiral. "We surrender," said. His 4 eyes looked hollow. "We request terms." Admiral appeared on screen, his face calm. "Your empire will withdraw from all human space. You will pay reparations for the colonies you destroyed, and you will sign a non-aggression treaty for 50 years. And if we refuse, then we'll teleport ships into your and end this war permanently." Believed him, he had no choice. "I accept your terms." The fleet jumped away, defeated and broken. Earth celebrated. Humanity had won its first major war. But in the command center, Admiral wasn't celebrating. "Sir, we did it," said Park. "We won." "We won this battle," replied. "But think about what just happened. We showed the galaxy that we have technology that makes their defenses useless. Every alien civilization just watched us defeat a major empire with 12 ships." Smile faded. "You think they'll come after us?" "I know they will. Some will want to steal the technology. Others will want to destroy us before we become too powerful. We just became the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Commander Menu's ship appeared near Earth, returning from the battle. He was hailed as a hero. His crews were celebrating. But when he met with Admiral, the mood was different. "How long do we have?" Menu asked. "Intelligence reports indicate at least 6 alien powers are already planning operations against Earth. Some diplomatic, some less so." "Then we need to build more ships, train more crews." "We need to do more than that," said Park. "We need to make ourselves indispensable. If other civilizations need us, they can't destroy us." "What do you suggest?" asked. Pointed to a star map showing known alien territories. "We offer teleportation services, not the technology itself, but transport. We become the galaxy's infrastructure. Every civilization uses our network, and therefore every civilization has a reason to keep us safe." Menu frowned. "That makes us a target. We'd be controlling all major transportation." "We're already a target," replied. "At least this way we're a valuable target, one worth protecting." Doctor joined the meeting through a video link. He looked exhausted but excited. "I've been working on quantum sensors. If we deploy them throughout the galaxy, we can detect any fleet movement before they jump. We'll always know who's moving ships and where." "A surveillance network," said slowly. "Combined with instant transportation and advance warning, we would control the entire strategic landscape of the galaxy." "Is that what we want to be?" Menu asked. "Controllers, rulers?" "We want to survive," replied. "And sometimes survival requires power. The question is whether we'll use that power wisely." Far across the galaxy, in the council chambers of a dozen different empires, leaders watched recordings of the battle. They saw human ships appear and disappear. They saw the fleet destroyed. They calculated their own vulnerabilities. Some decided humanity must be destroyed. Others decided humanity must be controlled. A few decided humanity might be useful allies. But all of them understood one truth. The galaxy had fundamentally changed. The old rules of warfare were obsolete. A new era had begun, and at its center was a small blue planet called Earth. And humanity was just beginning to understand what they had started. Doctor had not slept properly in 3 days. Representatives from 17 different alien civilizations wanted meetings. Some offered wealth beyond imagination. Others offered threats barely disguised as warnings. All of them wanted the same thing: humanity's teleportation technology. The latest visitor sat across from him in a conference room deep beneath Sol. The alien called itself Ambassador, and its species looked like walking crystals. Light refracted through its body in strange patterns. "Doctor, my people offer you the mineral resources of an entire moon, rare elements your species has never seen. In exchange, we ask only for the basic principles of your threshold drive." Rubbed his tired eyes. "Ambassador, I appreciate the offer, but we cannot share this technology." The crystal alien's light patterns shifted to angry red. "Cannot or will not?" "Both. The technology is too dangerous in the wrong hands." "And you believe humans are the right hands?" His voice held contempt. "You, who have been spacefaring for barely a decade." "No," admitted. "I don't think anyone should have this power, but we do, and we must decide how to use it responsibly." Stood abruptly. "You will regret this decision, Doctor." The alien left without another word. Intelligence Officer Nam watched the meeting through hidden cameras. She had been tracking threats against humanity for months now. The list grew longer every day. After left, she entered the conference room. "That's the third direct threat this week," she told. "And those are just the ones making threats openly." "How bad is it?" asked. Pulled up a holographic display. It showed troop movements, fleet positions, and diplomatic communications across multiple star systems. 7 major powers are planning coordinated action against us. They're trying to keep it secret, but our quantum sensors are detecting unusual fleet concentrations. "When?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. They're waiting until all pieces are in position. "Contacted Admiral immediately." The Admiral arrived within the hour, bringing Commander Minyu and Park with him. "Show us everything," ordered. Displayed her intelligence. 7 alien powers, each commanding hundreds of ships. They were positioning fleets at strategic jump points around human space. When they struck, it would be simultaneous from all directions. "They learned from the mistake," observed Minyu. "They're not giving us time to use our teleportation advantage. They'll hit us everywhere at once." "The Dominion, the Silicate Collective, the Councils," Park read the list. "Some of these civilizations are thousands of years old. They're forming an alliance just to stop us." "Can we fight them all?" asked. Minyu studied the tactical display. "No, we have maybe 60 ships with threshold drives now. They're bringing 3,000 ships total. Even with our technology advantage, the numbers are impossible." "Then we don't fight them," said Park. "We make them not want to fight." She outlined her plan. Instead of hoarding the teleportation technology, humanity would offer transportation services. Any civilization could pay to have cargo or passengers teleported. Humans would control the network, but everyone would benefit from it. "They won't accept that," argued. "They want the technology for themselves." "They want it because they're afraid of being left behind," countered. "If we give them access to the benefits without the dangers, some might choose cooperation over conflict." Some repeated, "Not all." "No, not all, but we don't need all. We just need enough to break the alliance." Ambassador was called to Earth to lead the diplomatic offensive. She was humanity's most experienced negotiator, having worked with alien cultures for 6 years. She looked at the list of civilizations planning to attack Earth and sighed. "This will be difficult," she admitted. "These powers don't trust each other. The only thing uniting them is fear of humanity." "Use that," suggested. "Show them that fighting us risks destroying the very technology they want, but cooperating gives them access to something revolutionary." Began a diplomatic campaign that would determine humanity's survival. She traveled to Alien, offered demonstrations of human teleportation services, and negotiated terms. She worked 18-hour days, sleeping on transport ships between meetings. The councils were the first to break from the alliance. They were ancient beings, more interested in knowledge than conquest, offered them unrestricted access to human teleportation for scientific purposes. In exchange, their fleet. The Silicate Collective took longer to convince. They were a hive-mind species that valued efficiency above all else, showed them how human teleportation could revolutionize trade and resource distribution. After 3 weeks of negotiation, they agreed to a trial partnership. But 5 civilizations remained committed to attacking Earth. They believed humanity was too dangerous to exist, regardless of potential benefits. Intelligence officer Nam watched their fleets continue moving into position. "We have 72 hours until they're ready to attack," she reported. In the command center, Admiral made preparations. Every human ship with a threshold drive was placed on alert. Defensive platforms surrounded Earth, Mars, and the remaining colonies. It wouldn't be enough, but they would fight anyway. Commander Minu reviewed battle plans with his squadron commanders. They had learned much about teleportation warfare in the past months. They knew how to maximize chaos, how to target command ships, how to make an enemy fleet collapse from within. "We can't win this with conventional tactics," he told his officers. "We need to make them afraid. We need to show them that attacking Earth costs more than they're willing to pay." Lieutenant Han, now commanding her own ship, raised a question. "What if we don't attack their fleets? What if we teleport directly to there?" The room went silent. The implication was clear. Humanity could bypass all defenses and strike at the heart of any alien civilization. "That would be an escalation," Minu said carefully. "It would prove their fears about us." "They're already attacking," replied. "We're just defending ourselves." Admiral considered the option. It was brutal but effective. If they demonstrated the ability to strike anywhere, anytime, the 5 attacking civilizations might reconsider. "We'll prepare the capability," he decided, "but we won't use it unless absolutely necessary. Let's see if diplomacy can still work." Ambassador made one final attempt. She contacted the leaders of the 5 remaining hostile powers and invited them to a conference. To her surprise, they accepted. The meeting took place on a neutral space station. Stood before representatives of civilizations that wanted her species dead. She kept her voice calm and professional. "You see humanity as a threat. You believe our technology will destabilize the galaxy. You may be right, but destroying us won't destroy the knowledge. Our scientists have shared their research across dozens of human facilities. If Earth falls, the technology spreads beyond your control. Then we will hunt down every human facility," growled the ambassador. "And while you do that, your rivals will reverse engineer our technology from wreckage and refugees. You'll be fighting humanity while your enemies gain the same capabilities. Is that wise?" The alien representatives looked at each other, continued. "But if you work with us, you gain controlled access to teleportation services. Your civilizations benefit immediately. Your shipping costs drop to nothing. Your response time to crises becomes instant. Your enemies have no advantage because everyone uses the same network." "A network you control," pointed out the silicate representative. "Yes, but consider the alternative. If you destroy us and someone else develops the technology, they'll control it, and they might not offer you any access at all." The conference lasted 6 hours. Arguments, counterarguments, threats, and promises were exchanged. Finally, the ambassador spoke. "We will agree to a trial period. 6 months of using your transportation network. If it works as promised, we will sign a formal treaty." "And if it doesn't," asked. "Then we reserve the right to reconsider our position." It was the best deal humanity could get, accepted immediately. The 5 hostile fleets, the threat of immediate war passed. Earth celebrated, but those in command knew better. "They're not our friends," Admiral told Park. "They're customers who might become enemies again." "Then we make ourselves too valuable to attack," replied. "We build the network so well that the galaxy can't function without it." Over the next months, humanity established threshold jump stations across known space. Alien civilizations began using human teleportation for trade, travel, and communication. The old jump gates that had defined galactic travel began to look obsolete. Doctor continued his research, making the technology more efficient and reliable. His daughter joined his team. She was young but brilliant, with ideas even her father hadn't considered. Commander Minu's fleet became the Threshold Security Force, protecting human facilities from sabotage and theft. Lieutenant Han led dangerous missions to stop espionage attempts. Intelligence officer Nam discovered that despite treaties and agreements, multiple alien powers were trying to reverse engineer human technology. Some attempts were crude, others were sophisticated. They will eventually succeed, she warned Admiral. Maybe not this year or next, but eventually someone will figure it out. I know, replied. The question is what kind of galaxy we'll have when they do. The galaxy was changing. Humanity sat at the center of the transformation, both revered and feared. They had survived first contact, won a war, and restructured galactic civilization around their technology. But the hardest challenges were still ahead, because power always attracts enemies, and monopolies never last forever. 10 years had passed since humanity fired those first. The galaxy looked completely different now. Park stood at the window of the Galactic Assembly Station, watching ships from 100 different species arrive through human-operated teleportation gates. Some came in peace. Others came because they had no choice. All of them depended on humanity's network. First Diplomat Park called an aide. The assembly is ready for you. Straightened her formal robes. She was Earth's primary representative to the galaxy now, navigating politics more complex than anything in human history. Every day brought new challenges, new alliances, new threats. The assembly chamber was vast, designed to accommodate hundreds of different species. Took her position at the human platform. Around her, alien representatives watched with various expressions. Some were friendly, many were not. The speaker, a floating energy being called, opened the session. We address the human monopoly on teleportation technology. Ambassador, you have requested this hearing. The crystal alien who had threatened Doctor years ago now stepped forward. The human stranglehold on transportation has lasted long enough. We demand they share the technology completely or face sanctions. Several other species voiced agreement, had expected this. The resentment had been building for years. Ambassador, replied calmly, humanity has never any civilization access to teleportation services. We have built stations in every major system. We charge fair rates. What we refuse to do is proliferate dangerous technology without safeguards. You mean you refuse to lose your power, accused. We mean we remember what happened when we first demonstrated this technology. 7 civilizations immediately tried to use it for war. That created murmurs throughout the chamber. Several species looked uncomfortable at the reminder. On Earth, Doctor worked in his laboratory with his daughter. She was 26 now, already surpassing her father in certain areas of quantum physics. Together, they were developing something revolutionary and terrifying. The math works, said, reviewing her calculations for the 10th time. Personal teleportation is possible. Stared at the equations. Individual people, teleporting without ships or gates, anyone could appear anywhere. The implications made his head hurt. This changes everything. Again, he said quietly. Should we show Admiral? We have to, but I'm afraid of what comes next. They demonstrated the technology the next day. Stood in the Sol laboratory, activated a small device on her wrist and vanished. She appeared on Mars instantaneously. Then she teleported back. Admiral, now elderly but still sharp, understood immediately. If this becomes common, borders become meaningless. Security becomes impossible. Anyone could teleport into government buildings, military facilities, private homes. Yes, confirmed. And we can't keep this secret forever. The principles are an extension of ship-based teleportation. Anyone studying our network will eventually figure it out. How long do we have? Unknown. Could be months, could be years. Sat down heavily. We need to tell the Galactic Assembly. If they hear about this from anyone else, they'll panic. Colonel Han commanded the Threshold Security Force, humanity's elite protective unit. Her forces guarded human facilities across the galaxy, facing constant threats. Espionage attempts, sabotage, and sometimes outright attacks. Her current mission took her to a remote station where intelligence suggested a major security breach. Someone had stolen detailed schematics of human teleportation technology. "Colonel, we've identified the perpetrators," reported Captain. "It's a coalition effort. 4 different species working together." "Who's leading it?" "The..." Felt old anger stir. The defeated 10 years ago had apparently not learned their lesson. Take them alive if possible. I want to know how much they've learned. The raid was swift and professional. His team teleported directly into the facility. The surprised thieves had no time to destroy evidence or escape. Within minutes, the situation was contained. But what found in the recovered data worried her. The thieves hadn't just human technology. They had been improving it, making modifications that even human scientists hadn't considered. "They're close," she told Admiral later. "Maybe 6 months from having functional teleportation drives." "Then we're out of time," replied. "The monopoly is ending." Park stood before the Galactic Assembly again, this time with news that would shock everyone. She explained personal teleportation technology and its implications. The chamber erupted in chaos. "This is a disaster," shouted one representative. "No civilization will be safe." "Humanity has doomed us all," screamed another. Waited for the noise to die down. "We know the risks. That's why we're proposing a galactic teleportation treaty. Standards for safety, privacy, and security. Rules all civilizations must follow." "And who enforces these rules?" demanded you. "No, an independent council with representatives from every major civilization. Humanity will have one vote, the same as everyone else." That created surprised silence. Many species had expected humanity to try maintaining control. Ambassador, now retired but still consulted on major decisions, watched the broadcast from Earth. She smiled slightly. Had learned well. Sometimes the best way to keep power was to share it. The treaty negotiations took months. Every species wanted special considerations. Some wanted complete bans on personal teleportation. Others wanted unrestricted access. Finding compromise was painful. Commander Minyu, now leading humanity's entire space fleet, prepared for the worst. If negotiations failed, war might follow. His ships were positioned to defend Earth and key human facilities. But he hoped it wouldn't come to that. After 10 years of managing galactic transportation, humans had made genuine allies. Not everyone resented them. Many species recognized that humanity had used their technological advantage responsibly. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Empire, humanity's first enemy, proposed a solution. War Prime, still leading his people despite past defeats, addressed the assembly. "We have tried to match human technology through theft and espionage. We have failed. But in failing, we learned something valuable. The humans succeeded not because they are superior, but because they thought differently. They saw a problem no one else saw and found a solution we were too rigid to imagine." He paused, his 4 eyes scanning the chamber. "If we want to match them, we should not steal their technology. We should learn their methods. We should innovate as they innovated." The speech shifted the entire debate. Instead of fighting over who controlled teleportation, the assembly began discussing how to encourage innovation across all species. The final treaty was signed 3 months later. Personal teleportation would be allowed but regulated. An independent Galactic Technology Council would oversee development and safety standards. Humanity would share its research freely, but only with civilizations that agreed to the regulations. Not everyone was happy, but no one was angry enough to start a war. Doctor retired 6 months after the treaty was signed. His daughter took over his research. She immediately began collaborating with alien scientists, combining human quantum physics with alien approaches. The results were extraordinary. Within a year, they developed teleportation methods even more efficient than the originals. Commander Minu stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the galaxy. Hundreds of ships moved through space, most using some form of teleportation technology now. It wasn't all human-designed anymore. They had developed their own variation. The Silicate Collective had another approach. Each civilization was contributing. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sola, approached. "Commander, do you ever regret that we don't control everything anymore?" Minu smiled. "You know, when we fired those first, I thought we were fighting for survival. Then we invented teleportation, and I thought we were fighting for dominance. But now I realize we were really fighting for something else." "What's that, sir?" "For the chance to change the equation. For thousands of years, this galaxy ran on the same principles. Whoever had the biggest fleet and the most territory won. Power came from control, but we showed a different path. Power can come from innovation, from cooperation, from making yourself useful instead of making yourself feared." He gestured at the bustling space lanes. "Look at that. 100 species, all using different versions of teleportation technology, all working together. Yes, they compete. Yes, there are still conflicts. But the old empire-building model is dead. You can't conquer the galaxy when your enemy can appear in your throne room." "So what happens now?" "Now we keep innovating. We keep adapting. Because you can be sure someone is developing the next revolutionary technology. Maybe it will be human. Maybe it will be alien. But whoever it is, they'll change everything again." "That sounds exhausting." "It is, but it's better than the alternative. A static galaxy controlled by ancient empires who never change. That's not a future worth having." On Earth, Park completed her final report as first diplomat. She was retiring to teach at the new Galactic Relations Academy. Her last official act was to approve humanity's application to join the galactic community as a full member, not just an associate. The application was accepted unanimously, even voted in favor. Colonel Han sat in Seoul, watching young people teleport casually from place to place. Personal teleportation devices were common now, heavily regulated but accessible. The technology that had seemed impossible 10 years ago was now part of daily life. A young soldier approached her table nervously. "Excuse me, are you Colonel Han, the war hero?" Smiled. "I'm Han. I'm not sure about the hero part." "You fought in the first battles against you held new, you're famous." "I did my duty, same as a lot of other people who don't get remembered." The young soldier sat down uninvited. "Can I ask you something? Was it worth it, all the fighting and dying?" Looked out the window at the peaceful city. "At the time, we fought because we had no choice. We couldn't know what it would lead to. But yes, I think it was worth it. Not because we won, but because we changed the game. We gave the galaxy a different path forward." Admiral died peacefully in his sleep 2 years after the treaty was signed. His funeral was attended by representatives from 63 different species. Even War Prime came to pay respects to the human who had defeated him, but later worked with him for peace. Commander Minu gave the eulogy. "Admiral once told me that humans do their best work when everything is on the line. He was right, but he also taught me something else. That winning doesn't always mean destroying your enemy. Sometimes winning means changing the rules so there don't have to be enemies anymore." 20 years after first contact, the galaxy had stabilized into a new pattern. Dozens of species had developed their own teleportation variants. Trade flourished. Wars became rare because they were impractical. Borders became suggestions rather than hard lines. Humanity wasn't dominant. They were one voice among many, but they had earned respect, not through force, but through innovation and wisdom. They had shown the galaxy that change was possible, that old ways could be replaced with better ones. Doctor stood in her laboratory with her own daughter, named after the famous diplomat. Together they worked on the next impossible thing, instant communication across any distance. "Mom," asked Young, "do you think we'll change everything again?" Smiled, "Probably. That's what humans do. We see a problem, we find a solution, and we make everyone adapt. It's our gift and our curse." "Will they resent us for it?" "Some will, but others will thank us. And eventually, someone else will invent something that makes our discoveries look old-fashioned. That's how progress works." Commander Minu, now a very old man, sat in that same observation deck where he had first fought The stars looked the same, but everything else had changed. A young officer found him there. "Admiral Minu, sorry to disturb you, sir." "I'm not an admiral anymore, just an old man watching the stars." "You're a legend, sir. You commanded the first ship with a threshold drive." Minu laughed softly. "And now every cargo hauler has one. That's how it should be. Technology should spread, knowledge should grow." "Do you miss it? The early days when humans controlled everything?" "No," Minu said honestly. "Power is a burden. I'm glad to share it. We fired those not to rule the galaxy. We fired them to survive. We invented teleportation not to dominate others but to level the playing field. And now the playing field is level. Maybe for the first time in galactic history, everyone has a fair chance." He stood up slowly, his old joints protesting. "The galaxy was never the same after we arrived, but that's not because we were special. It's because we were willing to try something different, and that's a lesson anyone can learn." The galaxy continued to turn. Ships teleported across space. Species traded and cooperated and occasionally argued. But the old age of empires and conquest had ended. A new age had begun, built on innovation and mutual benefit. And at the heart of it all was a small blue planet whose inhabitants had once been called primitive, but who had changed the equation forever.